When you think about what's listening to you on your phone, it's easy to focus on the obvious culprits like Siri or Google. Those are good guesses, but they're not quite right. So what is really listening on your smartphone? Well, almost everything. And while they're feeding on our attention, we're also constantly feeding them data, especially audio data. But while it's pretty obvious that apps like Google or Apple want to hear what you re-sang when you ask them to play music or send a text message, there are plenty of other apps and services listening in, even when you're not actively using them. In fact, there are parts of your phone that are always listening. So let's break down how apps, the operating system, and even passive sensors on your phone could be collecting audio data, whether you want them to or not. When you ask Siri to turn up the volume, it's not just her. Many modern smartphones have multiple microphones. You might know about the one near the earpiece that you use for calls, but most also have another one tucked away near the bottom. That one's typically used for voice commands. If you've ever tried asking Siri something while you were blasting music, you'll know that sometimes she can still hear you even when the volume is turned way up. That S, because it has a dedicated microphone that can register sounds within a certain decibel range without being physically close to the source. This allows your phone to listen out for specific cues, like glass breaking or an impact like a car crash, which is exactly what some newer flagship phones do. They can call emergency services automatically if they sense you've been in an accident. And speaking of accidents, even if you don't drop your phone very often, it can still get jostled around in your pocket or bag. That's why many phones are designed with a proximity sensor to keep the screen off while it's sitting in your pocket, though this doesn't always work as intended. It's a good thing then that most operating systems have motion-based features to prevent accidental inputs. That's why if you look at your lock screen and then walk away, your phone will often assume that you're not actually interacting with it and it'll stop responding to touch inputs. Some go even further than that. The iPhone 14 Pro, for example, has a new feature called Dynamic Island, which keeps track of the apps you're currently using so that they can keep updating even when you're not looking at the screen. While this isn't strictly listening, it does require extra processing power, and it means your phone is listening out for changes in activity. But there's another reason that phones need to sample audio even when they're not being used. Apps rely on this audio context to figure out what kind of experience you're having on your phone. For example, in an area with poor reception, your phone might have trouble getting a signal. So it could listen for sounds like a car engine or busy background chatter to help it guess where you are and then connect you to the nearest cell tower. Similarly, if you're wearing headphones, your phone might be able to tell by listening to see if the speakers are registering sound. That way, it can lower the volume of anything playing through the speakers. But beyond those kinds of useful applications, many apps are listening for sounds to keep tabs on your activities. For example, Facebook's Libra app listens for noises in the room to make sure you're actually in the physical space you say you are. That way, it can confirm your location and prevent fake reviews. Meanwhile, Uber relies on audio clues to ensure that passengers are actually getting into the correct vehicle. Sounds like car doors closing and seatbelts clicking into place can confirm that you've gotten into the right Uber, and once you're on your way, they can listen for things like braking and turning to estimate how long it'll take for you to reach your destination. But Uber and Facebook aren't alone in this. Plenty of other apps would rather you not know they're listening, including some you probably trust more than them. Snapchat lets you share audio recordings with friends, but it also listens to all the surrounding sounds where you are to figure out what kind of surroundings you're in. Then, it uses this info to show you filters that will match the vibe of your surroundings. That means your beach photos will have a more natural look if you use the beach filter instead of the forest filter. Meanwhile, TikTok looks at your location data and combines that with sounds it's passively hearing in the background to try to guess what kind of content you're likely to be interested in. So if it hears lots of construction noise, it'll recommend videos tagged with construction sounds. That way, it hopes you'll find something you like to watch. Similarly, Amazon's Alexa voice assistant analyzes audio data from its users to make their experience better. It can listen for different voices in the home to personalize settings, and it can even listen for background sounds to customize music recommendations. Even if you don't have Alexa, these kinds of practices are becoming more common. Analysis of anonymized and aggregated audio data can help companies improve their products, figure out how people use them, and ensure that everyone is having a positive experience. That said, there are plenty of apps that are listening to you for less altruistic reasons. For example, some games can listen to see if you're making in-game noises like shooting or fighting, even if you have your headphones plugged in. That way they can sync the audio accordingly. But some are even sneakier than that. A recent study found that some mobile games and social media apps quietly record users' audio data, then resell that data to third parties without telling them. These shady companies could then use your data to build profiles of their users and sell access to those profiles to marketing firms, or worse. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We do unfully know what apps are listening to us, or how they're reusing that information, until after they've already collected it. In fact, one report suggests that dozens of apps are passively listening to users at all times, even when they're not being used. And that was before every major company got into the business of recording and analyzing conversations. The good news is that there are steps you can take to limit who is listening in on you. On Android, you can disable your phone's accessibility settings and turn off any apps that can listen to incoming calls. And on iOS, you can turn off Siri and make sure you have given any other apps permission to use Siri functionality. You can also block apps from accessing your microphone by going into your settings and managing permissions. And if you're really concerned about privacy, you can buy a set of physical security stickers to cover up the various microphones on your devices. Of course, doing any of that is going to make your experience with your phone a lot less convenient, so it's worth asking the question, should it be that way? After all, Siri isn't going to save your life unless she knows you're in danger. And if she only wakes up when you speak a certain phrase, she's not going to be very helpful. Now you're listening. Now check out these videos over here, which are carefully selected to match your interests, or watch this video instead.